coach as a youngster, and more than anything else, you know, I love how Red Auerbach played with a deep rotation. That some of his Hall of Fame people came off the bench, and so I tried to pick up things that I think work with my philosophy, and that's why we utilizing the system and style that we have today. And a lot of guys are attracted to our program because they like the way we play, and some guys want to be in a program where everybody gets touches, and the culture is predicated on unselfish spirit.
Let's get jump in there, Leonard, and say, and you have a lot of that depth right now. For instance, now win over Pittsburgh, you had 10 guys play at least 9 minutes. Now, you mentioned all the guys that have influenced you. You have influenced a number of others. You're not just sending talent to the NBA. As an example, Dennis Gates had led Cleveland State to the Horizon League regular season title. He was with you 8 years at Florida State. How much pride is there for you to see him having the levels of success that he's having with his own program now?
Well, there's no doubt that we talk on a regular basis, and along with Andy Enfield, and I don't talk to Bill Self as much, but Bill was on my staff at Oklahoma State. You know, I feel very fortunate to have had the intuition to hire great, smart people who helped me be where I am today, and those guys have moved on and doing great jobs with where they are. I mean, I can't take all the credit for that because those guys were super sharp coming in, but I am proud of the fact that the guys who come through our program are going on and having a lot of success.
Leonard Hamilton, my guest. Listen, one last thought. Last night you were part of a panel on the ACC network, and you were talking about social justice and racial equality. What did you take away from that conversation?
Well, I'm a proponent, Jim, of doing something substantial. You know, there's a lot of symbolic gestures that we make, you know, that I think raises the consciousness of people. But until we have a movement where the federal government mandates an official, organized, thorough program to understand how do we get to this point and why we're where we are and how is it affecting our society and what is the plan for us to improve it or correct it. Right now, we just got so many different agencies and so many different people doing their thing, and it means an awful lot to be doing that. But until it comes down from the top, I'm not real sure we're going to be like a dog chasing his tail, going around and around in circles. Because if you remember correctly, back in the mid-'60s, we had the Kerner Commission who did a authentic, thorough study, but we never used the information that was gathered. I mean, we're in a very interesting way now where we are discriminating against people who we don't even know. I mean, in other words, and so even in our school systems, in our educational system, there's nothing going on in our education system that gives us an opportunity how to deal with conflict resolution. How do you relate to people who don't look like you or who don't act like you? How can we just come up with a way how we get along? And right now, I mean, when I look around and see a lot of our politicians saying, what are y'all talking about? There's no problems in our society. Everything's fine. Well, we got a problem.
So, Leonard, are you hopeful and optimistic, or are you frustrated?
I'm a little bit of all. We have good people that are trying, but it's not official, and we're not all on the same page. I mean, we can put guys on the moon. We can't figure out how to get along. Something wrong with that picture.
So CEO and all-around genius Kevin Mather resigned yesterday after the comments he made to the Rotary Club had surfaced and exposed him for who and what he is. As a mini refresher, Mather, one of the architects behind the longest postseason drought in baseball, called one of the most important players on the team overpaid, called the best pitcher, quote, very boring. He also seemed to admit manipulating service time with the organization's best prospects. He criticized an all-star from Japan and an elite prospect from the Dominican Republic for their skills in a second language. And why did he do all this? To impress a bunch of Rotarians. Team chairman and managing partner John Stanton said yesterday that he was, quote, extremely disappointed, end quote, when he heard what Mather had to say.
His comments were inappropriate and do not reflect our organization's feelings about our players, our staff, or our fans. Is no excuse for what was said, and I will not try to make one. I offer my sincere apology on behalf of the club and my partners to our players and our fans. We must do and we must be better. We have a lot of work to do to make amends, and that work is already underway.
And isn't this how this always goes? The boss who made the comments resigns. The boss's boss says they're inappropriate and do not represent the club, and they hope that everybody moves on. Except that doesn't quite work, not here, because Mather's comments do represent the team. He was the president and CEO of the team. If the president and the CEO of the team does not represent the team and set that team's culture, then who does? This wasn't some doofus mid-level manager spouting off on Twitter. This was your president and CEO running his mouth to impress a couple of dozen Rotarians. He was showing how big league he is by bragging about messing with service time, clowning international players, and even used the word tummy in public, which in and of itself is a fireable offense.
Hi, big tummy out there in left field.
The issue is not that Kevin Mather said this on camera and that somehow that footage leaked. The issue is he said it, and he said it because he believes it. The problem is not that he got caught on a hot mic. The problem is the belief system in the first place, and that he acted on it. These were beliefs that he had and that guided how he approached his job and how he ran the team. As team president and CEO, this is not some rando working in the souvenir shop or selling beer and peanuts at the yard. This is your team president and CEO. So there's no way that nobody around Kevin Mather didn't know that this is the way he thought. In what organization do people not know how the president and the CEO thinks? Everybody in every organization knows what the boss thinks and what the boss wants. That's how it works. Everybody knows what the boss believes and how the boss wants that organization to behave and conduct itself. So there's absolutely no way that John Stanton and everybody else associated with the Mariners didn't know. It's not like you break out your new material for the Bellevue Rotarians. Trust this. Mather was out there playing his greatest hits. But now Stanton and the rest of the organization are absolutely shocked. I mean shocked to learn that Mather is wired this way. Hell no. I mean, come on. I don't buy that bullcrap, and neither should you. The issue now is the rest of us know what Stanton and the others already knew about Mather. The issue is the rest of the world knows the Mariners' values and their feelings about their players, their staff, and their fans. Because if the president and the CEO doesn't embody the values of the organization, well, he also creates them and he sets them. But keep in mind, not everybody's pissed. Not everybody's pissed. Josh Donaldson, for instance, is happy about it. He's happy in the sense that this guy admitted to manipulating service time. He tweeted, quote, "Thank you, Kevin Mather. I sincerely mean it. You just said what everyone already knew. But now we, MLBPA, have official evidence that is going to help a lot of players. Again, thank you. Bravo." End of tweet. Yeah, I guarantee you he's not the only decision maker in baseball or in the Mariners organization who thinks about service time and international players the way this guy does. This is why it's a complete joke for Stanton to say, quote, "This does not represent our organization's feelings about our players, staff, and fans." Hey, John, if the president and CEO does not represent the organization's feelings about your players, staff, and fans, then who the hell does? And if you've been following along closely, you might also remember Stanton from statements that he made back in July 2018. Quote, "Today, the Seattle Times published a story about the Seattle Mariners workplace environment. We do not believe it accurately reflects the values and culture of our organization." End quote. Isn't that exactly the thing he just said? That was the opening to a statement about accusations of sexual harassment directed by 3 Mariner executives by multiple female employees. I'm not going to read you the entire statement from Stanton. I'll just skip to the part that has a subheading of its own. Quote, issues involving Mariners president and CEO Kevin Mather. Look, I'm not going to say there's a problem with the Mariners, but when you have to put out multiple statements about issues involving your president and CEO, maybe there is a problem with the Mariners. And as part of that statement from 2018, quote, nearly 10 years ago, 2 female former Mariners employees complained of inappropriate language and treatment in the workplace by then executive VP Kevin Mather. So, he was accused of sexual harassment, and according to reports, settlements of more than $500,000 were paid out. And yet this guy was later promoted to team president and then to team CEO. So you guys knew exactly who this guy was, and yet you still kept him around. I hate to say it, but these are the values of your organization. If you keep a guy like that around and you promote him, that's who you are. And on top of that, it's not like you can point to some crazy track record on the field and say, yeah, you know, this guy was accused of sexual harassment, and he manipulates service time, and he makes fun of people learning English as a second language. But, man, he is killing it on the field because he's not. The Mariners have been fine with sucking and with having lousy guys around. So, again, the issue was not that he was on camera when he said this junk. It's that he believes this junk. And he's been with the organization for years and was promoted repeatedly. Mather did not get caught on that video call. The entire Mariners organization did. Same as they ever were. Embarrassing. And per usual, hope that was worth it. You're unique, and so are your taxes. TurboTax Live is experienced tax experts who listen to you, learn about your unique tax situations, and answer your questions. And on top of all that, they can do your taxes from start to finish. Maybe you began investing and you want some reassurance from an expert that you're doing things the right way. Or maybe now you're self-employed and you need some expert advice on what qualifies as a home office deduction. Or maybe you'd rather have an expert file your taxes for you so you can focus on what matters most. No matter what your situation is, TurboTax Live tax experts can answer all of your questions, give tax advice, review your return before you file, or even do it all for you. TurboTax Live gives you confidence that your uniquely you taxes are done right. Intuit TurboTax Live. File with the help of an expert or let an expert file for you. He is Kenyon Drake. Kenyon, good to have you back. How are you?
Pretty good, Jim. Thanks for having me back.
Good to have you back. Let me check in on you and your pups. How are your dogs, Tyson and Maxine, doing these days?
Man, the pups are good, man. Getting bigger every day. Mama Bear Maxine is just, the matriarch of the house. She does what she wants when she wants, and Tyson is the baby, so he just gets spoiled. It's a great life to live.
It is a great life to live. I love it. All right, so you're coming off a year where you rushed for 955 yards. I would, if it were me, Kenyon, I'd round that thing right up to 1,000. So I'd ask you how it feels to have a 1,000-yard season, except you posted the other day a video of yourself training with the caption, 45 yards short of 1K last year. So how much does coming that close motivate you to hit it even harder in the offseason?
Yes, it's a great motivating factor. And more importantly, from a team standpoint, just because, like you mentioned before, I'm used to being a champion. You know what I mean? I played at Alabama, surrounded by a bunch of great men, and they helped elevate my game to where I am today. And that motivation and that attention to detail and that pursuit of perfection that I learned there is something that I take heed to every day as I'm in this league, in this position, to go out there and showcase my skills. So falling short of that milestone, that benchmark, is definitely something that kind of ate at me as the season ended. But more importantly, like I was saying, I wanted to get to the playoffs. I know the Cardinals hadn't made the playoffs in 4 or 5 years, and we fell short of that goal after starting like 6-2. So that's definitely another motivating factor, is just to kind of get to that point to where, we can get to the playoffs, because at that point anything can happen.
Kenyon Drake joining us. All right, so let me follow you up on that. The team did take a big step forward last season. You got off to that great start, but as you just mentioned, it did not end the way you would have liked. But what did you make of the offense this past year, and in particular, how Kyler Murray led that offense?